Welcome into Husker247 Daily. I'm Mike Schaefer, joined by Brian Christopherson. And of course, we are talking all things Michigan week as I apparently get tripped up just trying to say a sentence right now. Just so fired up for this Michigan game, Brian. I can barely talk. It's
That's been going.
Thursday. I'm ready. I'm ready for it to be Saturday. Yeah, it
It's
has
been
been
going
going around.
around with the
Yeah.
Husker 247 boys, at least. Yeah.
You just get so worked up and ready to go for this game so I can go sit quietly in the press box, get all that energy going, and then just sit there and make wry observations to Brunts and try to you, but you're often listening to the game, so it's kind of wasted sometimes.
Yeah, that's not. By the way, that's not because I'm trying to tune you guys out. It's just I
You're
do
getting
get.
the context of the call. We
Yeah,
appreciate it. Because
yeah,
there's times where you'll lean over and you'll tell us something that we didn't know, or we'll have had a conversation for like a couple minutes about a guy who hasn't been playing, and then you'll
yeah.
be able to lean over we never know if they had just said it on the broadcast or if you had gotten tired of hearing us talk about it in the background. You'll lean over and be like, "Yeah, so and so went back to the locker room."
And you're like, yeah, we talked about that 5 minutes ago. Yeah,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
sometimes we didn't know. Yeah,
That's fair though.
no, but what we're going to talk about today is would it be do you think it would be unfair if I characterize it like this, Brian? But I think the most interesting / critical player in this entire game is Bryce Underwood, the Michigan quarterback, because I don't know that we have any idea how he's going to perform on this stage.
Mm.
And he has 3 whole games to his college career. Like, you can watch as much film on those 3 games as you want, but we don't really have an idea, and even Nebraska wouldn't really have an idea as to what Bryce Underwood is going to be and how even Michigan plans to use him on Saturday. I think he is sort of the most unknowable thing in this whole game, and he holds a lot of the cards because if he doesn't play well, it's huge for Nebraska. If he plays great, can Nebraska still survive that? I mean, it is a big deal with Bryce Underwood on Saturday.
Yeah, and he's an extreme talent. There's no question about it. He was a top-rated quarterback in the last class, and even though I think he's rightly described as more of a pocket quarterback who wants to be that. There was kind of some pushback this week, Schaefer, because he had a stat sheet where he had like 114 rushing yards on 9 carries against Central Michigan. And then it was said, well, he only 2 of those were design runs and about 7 of them were freelance scramble type plays. Nonetheless, you still have to be gifted with your feet in those moments when a play breaks down. It's still the same threat, whether it's a play that wasn't how it was drawn up on the grease board or not. Nebraska still has to be able in those moments where there's a chaos player, however you want to explain it, to have some sort of answer or enough discipline in how they're set up on the defensive side of the ball that he can't get loose for just like a 35-yard stroll into your territory. And so I think it's definitely a concern item. And, the fact that he has that in his bag at least gives you something extra to think about. I'm still learning about him as a thrower. I think he has an elite like arm talent. Everybody who's seen him up close will say that. It's just a matter of probably processing sort of a higher level of defense that he's going against. And that's why maybe it's beneficial that Nebraska plays him earlier in the season than later, but you never know for sure. I mean, he could have some tricks that Nebraska doesn't know about, and that could go the other way. So that's what makes it such an interesting matchup. That, and I don't think we've ever had this, Mike, where it's, I mean, basically, I know there's a debate about Lagway and Raiola in the previous class, who was at the top. It ended up being Lagway in our rankings, but more or less, you have the top 2 quarterbacks from each of the last 2 classes playing in a football game in Lincoln, Nebraska early in their careers. It's pretty dang interesting just on itself, even the game within the game.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You've got a guy in Bryce Underwood who's trying to do what Dylan Raiola did last year, which is start 13 games for a Power 4 team as a true freshman at quarterback. That's really tough to do. Nobody else is really doing it. And you have 2 guys potentially with a Cal quarterback as well doing the same thing for the Bears this year. So, yeah, I mean, I think with Bryce, I genuinely don't believe, Brian, it would be the worst thing if he tries to scramble a lot on Saturday. Because I think if Nebraska can sort of contain him and you don't give up the big Clayton Thorson-esque run down the
Mm-hmm.
sideline or whatever it is, if he's having to pull the ball down and run because he can't figure out John Butler's defense, I think that's a good sign for Nebraska. I think if he is uncomfortable and feels like scrambling is the best way for him, that's as long as Nebraska's not allowing massive gainers in that regard. Like if he's taking off and he's getting 6 yards, okay. You have to live with that. The
Right.
biggest thing is going to be when it happens on third down. If you got him in third and long, you need to make sure that if he takes off, he's not getting that first down. And so that's sort of where the caveat is. But I look at this, and Nebraska has not allowed much in the way of passing yards. They're now facing a freshman quarterback. He's shown more of an inclination to run recently. I think again, it just wouldn't be the worst thing if he's just pulling the ball down and trying to run with it more. I just think that sets up pretty well for Nebraska. I'm very fascinated how and in what ways John Butler tries to throw a few wrinkles at him. It's hard to
Mm-hmm.
predict what that's going to be. But we saw it last year with Dylan Raiola. I mean, UCLA came out in a game in November that we all felt like Nebraska should be able to win coming off that performance against Ohio State. And they threw Dylan for a loop with all of the different ways they utilize their defensive linemen standing, having guys hang back into coverage. They threw some zone looks in there that they hadn't done so far, and they really got in his head. And it makes me wonder if John Butler has something up his sleeve for Saturday to just kind of like, when they aren't taking the ball away from Justice Haynes and they're putting it in the hands of Bryce Underwood to try to make plays in the passing game, does he have something there? Or does he have a bunch of pre-snap looks to really get in his head that way? Like, where's the pressure going to come from? This guy's coming to the line. That guy's backing up. This guy's in a different spot. I mean, it's there's the game within the game on Saturday, the cat and mouse is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and I know it's not the topic on the table, but it does connect to it. It does come back to with Justice Haynes and that running back duo that Michigan has. Are you keeping them from getting like 5 or 6 yards early in this game, or we're gonna have a good feel, I think, like 2 or 3 series in, like how Nebraska's holding up on run defense, and if they are positioning this game where Bryce Underwood is going to have to do something more than the average, like he's going to have to just be exemplary really for Michigan to win the game. But if it's a comfortable deal where they're getting 5 or 6 and then it's a 3rd and 1 and they take a shot and they got you sucked in and it's an easy 55-yard touchdown pass for them, that's the danger part. So the run defense thing really equates to like how much fun I think you can have trying to mess with a young quarterback's head in a way.
Yeah, there's no question on that. I'm of the opinion that there's more pressure on Nebraska's offense in this game than Nebraska's defense. Like, I think Nebraska's offense needs to be good enough to take some of the pressure off of the defense and just go out there and prove like, hey, you're coming off of these 2 games where you threw the ball around, you ran how you wanted to against these teams. Go prove it against a Michigan team and give your defense some breathing room. Like, give them some room to operate. Don't make it so every possession feels so tight because you weren't able to get it done on the offensive side of the ball. There's a part of me that really believes for Nebraska to win on Saturday, the offense plays well early. It can just allow everyone else to kind of fall into that game, and they're not going to have that sort of tightrope walk that they had against Cincinnati.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity for Nebraska's wide receivers to show they're actually better than Michigan's, which I think is very possible. And that would be a nice statement to start Big Ten play. I know this team has made it more about the Big Ten than Michigan, actually, if you've noticed this week. It's more about we start the gauntlet and Michigan happens to be the opponent. I like that. You're not giving the other side too much sauce, honestly. It's just like they're the first one up. Let's go get it. But this is why Dane Key came here to be a big dog in games like this. He spent a lot of time working with Dylan Raiola. They're roommates, as far as I know it. Right now, and they study the game all the time together. And so you hope that maybe they have one of those moments. I think what you're talking about is early on, even with this offense, that sort of gives everyone like, all right, everybody take a breath. There it was. You can make plays against these guys. Let's just go do it again and again.
Yeah, and that's a great teaser for what will be Friday's Husker 24/7 Daily. You and I getting back together again. We'll talk some wide receiver play.
Sounds
Nebraska's
good.
got some receivers that I believe absolutely can give Michigan trouble, and it's kind of hard to predict which one you think could have the biggest game, and that's sort of a nice problem to have when you're Nebraska and you got guys like Isaiah Hunter, and you mentioned Dane Key, of course, just Corey Barney, and then it goes further down the list too. It could be the sort of game where maybe it's only one catch, but Quinn Clark or Keelan Smith or Cortez Mills can come up big as well. So we'll dive into all of that on Friday's edition of Husker 24/7 Daily. We're still a couple days out, but this Nebraska-Michigan game that we've been talking about all off season, it's getting closer. Our voices are getting rested, and we'll bring you some more Husker 24/7 content coming soon.